Hi guys, and welcome to Escape with Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be reviewing the Watchdives WD16760. I received this watch for free. I don't have to send the watch back, but you guys know the deal by now. It's not going to sway my review one way or another. No matter how I get a watch in on this channel, you're always going to get my honest opinion. And if by the end of this review you want to pick one of these up, I'll be leaving a link down in the video description. That is an affiliate link, so if you use that link, you're not going to pay any extra, but you'll just earn a little bit of commission for the channel, which just helps keep it running, so I really do appreciate the continued support. The retail price for this watch starts at $119 US. However, the Pepsi and the root beer colorways, they are $139. That's before any taxes or customs or coupons or anything like that. If you get the price of your order over $150, I will be leaving this link right here. This is my coupon code, so Escape10 will get you $10 off the price of the watch. The watch comes in 3 different colorways that you can see here, and then you can also get some models with the 3-link or the 5-link bracelets. Sadly, this root beer colorway only comes with the 3-link bracelet. The watch case is made of 316L stainless steel, has a sapphire crystal with AR coating, a screw-down crown, screw-down case back, 300 meters of claimed water resistance, and the watch is powered by the Seiko NH34 automatic movement. So over the years, I have had plenty of this style of watch. It's a very common watch to be homaged. I've had the Pagani Design, I've had the Steeldive, Chronos, sugess. So I know the strengths and their weaknesses. So I'm curious how this one stacks up. Watchdives, they asked me if I wanted to check this one out, and I said yes, mainly because I'm a huge fan of this colorway. So I just couldn't really say no to it. And I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on this a little bit. So I say we get right into this full review. But before we do, a quick wrist check today. Wearing the Watchdives 1967 version 2. And yeah, still really enjoying this one. All right, dimensions on this thing: a 40.1 millimeter at the bezel, 13 millimeters thick, 20 millimeter lug width, 48 millimeters lug to lug, and with the male end lengths, total length is just under 51 millimeters, and sized up for my 7.5-inch wrist. It weighs about 155 grams. So without even taking dimensions on this thing, I pretty much could have called each and every one of those dimensions. It's the same for pretty much every watch of this style out there. It's a great size for multiple wrists, and there's a reason why they use this size. And yeah, I think it wears and kind of looks exactly like every other one does on the wrist. So it's a very flat case, as you can see there, but I've got really no complaints with the way it wears, so I'm going to go outside right now and throw it on my wrist for you. And here we are on my 7.5-inch wrist, and as you can see, it wears kind of like you would expect it to wear. I've had plenty of these watches. They all wear the same, a very flat case there, but it really doesn't matter too much. It's short enough lug to lug that you don't really miss the turn down, maybe just a little bit, but for the most part, it wears just fine. I like the polishing on the bracelet. I think it fits this design very nicely. I think it looks really good. Everything else is pretty much typical for a watch like this. Ceramic bezel insert, glossy dial, really nice hands and indices. Everything is done pretty good. There's air coating on the crystal there. It doesn't really need air coating, but they put it on there. Same with the Cyclops, so nice and easy to read the date there. Yeah, overall pretty satisfied with it. And here we are in some direct sunlight. You can see there, flat crystal, so normally not an issue to read it here. But I do think it looks good, and you can see it's a very subtle brown that really does pop in the bright light like this. So yeah, it's just something you kind of got to get used to. But other than that, I think it looks really, really good. All right, let's go throw it on one strap and we'll get back to this review. And here we are on a cut to size FKM strap. I'm really only going to throw it on this one strap here. I will leave the link down below. This colorway only really works on black straps, and I don't think pass-through straps look good on this thing or anything like that. So black rubber is pretty much the only other option in my opinion, and I think it does look really good on this. All right, let's go back inside. Let's get back to this review. All right, so let's talk about the case finishing. So again, pretty typical for a watch like this. It's a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces. We have a vertical brushing on the top of the case here, and you can see nice and consistent, nice and satinized. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to complain about. The sides are fully polished, as are the crown guards. That's pretty typical. I do like that they have a pretty short crown here. I was a little worried looking at the renders online, but this one is definitely a much shorter crown, or at least it sits deeper into the case. So yeah, I do like that look a lot. It is signed with the Watchdives logo there. Everything is about average for this watch. The polishing is done nice. The brushing is done nice. The transitions between the two surfaces are done nice. I've got no real complaints with the case finishing on this thing. The case back is also pretty standard for this, is circular brushing with that kind of coin edge thing on it. Not a huge fan of that. I wish I would just have regular notches to get a tool in there, but I've learned to deal with these things. I actually have the tool set for this, but it is executed nicely. There's no sharp edges or anything like that on it. This bottom edge of the case, always a little bit sharp on this style of watch. It's no different here. I wouldn't say it's uncomfortably sharp, but it is, they could have knocked that down just a little bit. But for the most part, it's pretty standard for a watch like this in this price range. You're going to have to really step up, almost double the price on this thing to get better case finishing than this. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the case on it. So let's talk about the bezel on this thing. So the bezel insert, it's ceramic bezel on all three models. Sometimes in this price range, you do get aluminum bezels for the Pepsi. Not in this case, you're getting a real ceramic. So this is probably the cheapest or one of the cheapest actual ceramic bezel Pepsi GMT models you can get. So yeah, pretty impressed with that. This bezel insert looks great as it is. Nice, good engravings. This brown section, it's a little bit darker than I was expecting. I have another watch in my collection that has got the same bezel insert, a little bit lighter brown. This one is a very subtle brown, but either way, I think it looks fantastic. The transitions are nice and crisp. The lume here, so this is a fully lumed bezel, which we'll show you guys here in a little bit. But the lume is done nice. There's no like spillover or anything like that. It's just a nicely done bezel insert. The bezel itself, stainless steel. This one is gold plated. Obviously the other ones are not. Plenty of grip on it. It's a 96 click bidirectional bezel, so really interesting. So you have 4 clicks in between each hour for timing GMT stuff. So you will be able to get those half an hour increments if you need them, and you can even get 15-minute increments on them. So really interesting choice, but it's a nice bezel. It locks right into place. There's very, very little play in it. But it feels good. It aligns perfectly. I've got no complaints with the bezel on this thing. It's actually pretty darn good. Yeah, I mean, it's very quiet clicks, but nicely done. Pretty happy with the bezel on this thing. It's much better than what you get from Pagani, and I believe Steeldive, they also just use unidirectional dive time bezel. So the fact that this is bidirectional and you can get those 15-minute increments, it's pretty much perfect, right? So yeah, really happy with the bezel on this. All right, so let's get to the crystal. Test it for sapphire. So the crystal itself is sapphire. The Cyclops is mineral, which is a little bit of a letdown. I do like to see sapphire on that Cyclops. That's probably the first thing that's going to get scratched, but really the crystal, it's great. It's just a very simple flat sapphire crystal. You can see there, sits ever so slightly above the bezel there. Clear inner reflective coating, and it does a really good job keeping the dial nice and clear. I don't believe flat ARs need AR coating, and the fact that they're using it, just a big bonus in my opinion. So yeah, really happy with the crystal on it. The clarity is excellent. The Cyclops magnifies, I think, really nice. It might not be that 2.5x that people really love to see, but it's pretty darn close. It's not too much like I've seen on other ones. So yeah, I am pretty happy with the Cyclops on this thing. All right, we'll get real close and we'll talk about the dial on this thing. So the dial, it's a dark, inky, just glossy black dial. It looks amazing. Looks really, really good. I don't see any imperfections in it or anything like that. You know, even getting real close under the lights here. It is very clean. Even the hands are done nice. You can, I mean, if you get really close, you can start seeing where that price comes into effect. But really, you're not going to see this at wrist length. You're really not going to see this without getting this close to it. So pretty happy with the dial on this thing. Pretty standard layout. You have your applied indices at all the hour markers except 3 o'clock, which has the date window there. Yeah, I mean, it's just done really nice. It does kind of have like a creamy tone to the lume on it, but I think it looks fantastic. The handset that they chose, it's a good one, pretty standard again. Good length though. Really happy with the big triangle there on the GMT hand. Lollipop second hand. Everything just looks nice and clean, simple, high quality though. You know, getting up real close is where you start seeing some of these things. The Pagani is really bad when it comes to the dial. These ones are excellent. Nicely done. The lume on this watch, I'm going to pop up a lume shot here. You can see against a couple other watches in the collection, and it really does good. I've got no complaints with the lume on this. It is BGW9. Like I said, it is kind of tinted a little bit, but it doesn't really take away from the longevity of it. It's one of the better watches that I have in the collection. Really happy with it. Nice even coating as well. So yeah, pretty happy with the lume on this watch, and I think you guys will be too. All right, so let's talk about the movement and the crown. So the movement inside is the You guessed it, Seiko NH34 automatic movement, hacking, hand winding, 21,600 beats per hour, so 6 ticks of the second hand every second, roughly 40 hours of power reserve, a bi-directional winding rotor. It does everything you need it to do. They're cheap, they're reliable, they're accurate, and I've had no major complaints with any of them that I've gotten on the channel. So yeah, the movements are excellent. Really not an issue at all. I do have a problem with the crown on this thing. The crown, it's very sticky. It's almost like they used an extra thick gasket somewhere in the system, and it's just kind of, I don't know, there's really no feel to it at all. There's no real satisfying pop out or anything like that. So yeah, the first position is your hand winding. It feels nice and solid. Second position is kind of a numb click into the date there. Roll it back and that changes your date. Roll it forward and that jumps your GMT hand. So as far as that goes, it all feels pretty good. It's very stiff feeling though. It's very heavy. Pulling it out to the third position hacks the movement. This is where you set the time, and again, it just feels very heavy. So it does kind of have a premium feel to it in that regard. But when you're pushing the crown back in, it's a very stiff push. There's no real clicks or anything like that. Sometimes I can't tell if I've pushed it in or not. And then screwing it in is kind of the same thing. It kind of almost feels like it squeaks into place. It's not the best crown that I've had on a watch like this. So just something to note. It's something that I could deal with if I had to. But yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on there. It just, like I said, it just feels like they have an extra thick gasket in there, and it's just kind of rubbing on the crown stem when I'm threading it in. So yeah, it's just an odd sensation. Other than that, I do like the signage of it. I like the size of it, plenty of grip, and the threading, once it does catch, it is pretty smooth. So not a huge deal, but something that they could definitely work on. All right, so let's talk about the bracelet on this thing. So the bracelet, pretty standard for a watch like this. It's 20 millimeters and it tapers down to 16 millimeters at the clasp. It is brushed on the outer links, polished on the inner links. The polishing actually looks really impressive here. Sometimes you get some of these middle links and they get really streaky looking. This is nice and crisp. I mean, they just look, they did a great job on it. Honestly, I'm kind of blown away. Even San Martin, I don't think is this nice on that middle polish link. So yeah, really happy with that. The end links, they are solid. The links themselves, they are solid as well. The articulation of them, just about on par with everything else in this price range. It's not bad at all. It's pretty comfortable as well. These bottom edges, they're nice and round, softer than a San Martin is. You got push pins for sizing it. I had no issues removing 2 links from my 7.5-inch wrist. The clasp that you see here, this is an optional clasp, so I will bring in the original clasp. The original clasp is just the typical Watchdives clasp. It has 2 button releases here. Got the Watchdives logo there. A pretty bare bones setup, but nicely done. Nice tight tolerances in the milled aspects of it. You got a pressed outer shell here with 5 levels of micro adjust, so you're going to be able to get a pretty good fit on this thing no matter what. I just happened to have this one laying around from another watch. It attached right to it. I had no issues swapping these clasps out. Fully milled on the inside. Nice tight tolerances everywhere. Everything functions as it should. These clasps are always a little bit sharp, but this one is just a little bit less sharp than definitely than the Pagani. And then it does have the sliding mechanism in here, so you get lots and lots of on-the-fly adjustment. So that's nice to see. A nice bonus that you can get this clasp. I'll leave the link for this clasp as well. Sadly, they don't have one with a gold here, but you can get this in a polished link here too. So yeah, pretty happy with the bracelet setup on this thing. The end links, they follow the case curvature nicely. The tolerances in here, there's not really any gaps or anything like that. I can just barely feel a wiggle there, but it doesn't translate to rattling on the wrist or anything like that. So I'm pretty happy with it. The tolerances, again, pretty much standard. I mean, it's better than a Pagani for sure, and better than a Steeldive for sure. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the bracelet on this thing. I would have liked to check out the 5-link. I feel like those are even a little bit nicer, but I've got real no complaints with their 3-link bracelets that they use on their watches. They're pretty nicely done. So there you go, guys. That is the Watchdives WD16761. In my opinion, the big competitors for this are the Pagani Design which is roughly $70, and then the Steeldive, which is pretty much the same price. I would definitely skip the Steeldive. This one is nicer, the Bracelet is nicer, the Lume is on par, so yeah, I would get this over the Steeldive. The Pagani, I do feel like the Pagani is just not as good in pretty much every aspect. The bezel is very wobbly, the Bracelet is terrible, the clasp is really sharp, so I would skip that as well. So you might want to jump up to something like a Chronos. I think those are pretty nice. They have nicer clasps at least, and the case is a little bit nicer as well. So I think when you get to San Martin and sugess, those are like 3 times the price. I wouldn't quite jump up that high unless you really love the style. But yeah, this one I think is a really good option. I continue to say this about Watchdives. They're coming out with some really nice watches at really nice prices, and they're really hard to beat. So yeah, I think this is one that you guys should be interested in. If you want this style, you're going for this style, this should be right at the top of your list in my opinion. So I think that's it for me. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.